Right, we're back after a little 2-day break. Finally back to doing some Bond stuff. Uh, had some prior things to do for the weekend, so I couldn't do this. But it's not the weekend anymore, and it's time to continue my little adventure. And we continue it with For Your Eyes Only, 1981. This was a very strange one. 2 hours and 7 minutes long, so it's a little long. But director John Glenn, who was second unit director on one of the other Bonds, is back, and he's going to do the next few Bonds. So Roger Moore is back with his 5th run at the age of 53. He still does 2 more after this. Bond girls Melina, BB, Liesel, villains Chrysados. We have Lotuses, which you know I love my Lotuses. The song For Your Eyes Only, Sheena Easton. This is it though. This was not supposed to be Roger Moore. Roger Moore's last Bond was supposed to be Moonraker, and they didn't know. They didn't think he was coming back. It was like, well, we got to go search for our new Bonds, and they actually, they were going to bring in Timothy Dalton. I was like, well, we'll get up Timothy Dalton. Let's get him in here. And Timothy Dalton said no. He's like, nah, I don't like the corny direction that the Bonds are going here. They had several people decline to be Bond at this point because people, or all of them were like, I don't like the corny direction you're going. I don't like the comedy. I don't like that he relies on gadgets. And I was like, we need to make this more serious. And they actually did that. They actually they wrote this movie out. The opening scene when he's at the grave was supposed to be the introduction to the new Bond, because it's like, well, here's we know this is Bond because he's visiting his wife's grave, but Roger Moore ended up coming back. But it was just, they wanted a more serious Bond with this one. It's like, yeah, this is not, like, people don't like the slapstick comedy and stuff like that. And me personally, like, I agree with that. I don't like the slapstick comedy. I do like a more serious Bond, which is like when I get to the rankings of these Bond movies, you guys are really going to be like, oh, what is wrong with this guy? Because I guarantee you the more modern Bonds are going to be higher on the list than these Bonds. Like, Roger Moore is a great Bond, but every single one of his movies is going to be on the lower tier, because I just don't like the corniness and the as much humor as they throw into it. I don't mind the quips and the one-liners. That's fine. But whenever you have a slide whistle when a car is doing a turn or something like that, that's a bit much for me. There was one thing I don't agree with, in that the producers were saying that the over-the-top villains were a problem. Like, oh, these guys are just way too out there. We need it to be more grounded in reality. That, I think, is okay, the over-the-top villain, because it almost gives them an air of insanity. Like, these guys are so crazy about taking over the world that they do some weird, outlandish stuff, like feeding people to piranhas and sharks. So I don't mind that so much. It's just the slapstick comedy, and that's why the next movie I'm watching, Octopussy, I'm not too fond of, because there's a point where Bond actually dresses like a clown, and it's just like, not a big fan. And Roger Moore did bring some humor to it, and that's cool and all, but to me it kind of lowers the standards of a Bond film. But we'll get into it. We open with the scene where he's visiting the grave of his wife, wife who has passed away. She was shot in on Her Majesty's Secret Service. So we see the grave, and Bond is putting flowers on the grave. Now, the person who screen tested for this was James Brolin. You may know him from Amityville. He is married to Barbra Streisand. Very, very good actor, very gruff and tough actor. I think he would have been great. He is also the father of Josh Brolin, and Josh Brolin is amazing. I love Josh Brolin. He's in freaking everything. He was in the Goonies. He played the brother, and he was also Chrysados and Cable from Deadpool 2, which is awesome. He's a Marvel guy. So he was also the jerk doctor in Planet Terror, the the double feature Grindhouse. Some people liked it, some people didn't. I loved it. I thought it was great. I even liked Death Proof. So he was actually in Death Proof too. I think he was a little cameo there. But it's how we start out with the Bond and everything, and then we see a white cat being petted, and a man is trying to kill Bond. Bond is up in a helicopter, and he is controlling the helicopter by remote. He's flying through, and he's like, "Ah, I'm gonna get you, Bond." They never say his name. We don't know if this is Blofeld. We don't know if this is Blofeld because the thing is, Kevin McClory owned Blofeld. He owned Spectre, and he owned Thunderball. And this is the only thing that he owned out of all of them. Then Eon Productions did not own them, so they weren't allowed to say the name Blofeld. They weren't allowed to say the name Spectre. They weren't, and it was a really bad thing. It was a court case that lasted for 30 years. It was actually not even settled until 2013. But this whole scene, he's flying through everything. Bond escapes out the helicopter, gets into the other side, pulls the cord, and flies the plane. Picks up Blofeld, or as he's known in the credits, man in a wheelchair. He picks up Blofeld, dumps him into the smokestack, killing him. He's dead, and the whole time Blofeld's like, "No, Bond, please, no." And he's flying through this, and what this was basically kind of like the producers, Albert Broccoli, all these people. It was kind of like just a middle finger to Kevin McClory. He was kind of like, yeah, you may own this character, but we're going to show you we don't need this character and we don't need you. And they kill him off, and that's basically saying, yeah, we killed off your character. What are you going to do about it? This was them giving the middle finger to Kevin McClory. But Blofeld would return and Never Say Never Again, which was not canon. I'm still reviewing it because it's Sean Connery. Cold brew. But he kills Blofeld, and that leads us to our title screen, which was not good, and the song, which was not good. It's For Your Eyes Only by Sheena Easton, and this is a pop love song. Just like, for your eyes only. Ooh. It's like, it's so horrible. Ugh. And the whole title sequence, it had Sheena Easton in it. It was like she like popped up and was singing the song throughout the whole thing, and it felt less like a Bond title sequence and more like a cheesy pop music video. And it took me out of the movie. I'm like, this is not good. I almost skipped it, almost fast forwarded it, but I can't because I'm doing this. I'm like, even my fiance sitting next to me, she's just like, what is this? And she's never seen, I think she's seen 4 of the Bond films, and they were all Daniel Craig's. I think she saw some of the Pierce Brosnan ones. But we were like, she was like, is this a Bond movie? And I'm like, yeah, this is a Bond movie. It was so bad, dude. So bad. I hated this. But the thing, let's move on to we're moving into the movie. We're on a ship, and it's a big, almost like a tanker ship, and they're doing some spy stuff. It's all right, but then they're reeling in a mine, and the mine hits the ship. Boom, blows up, and then we keep seeing this thing that says attack, ATAC. You're like, what is that? What is attack? What is this crap? And he's like, no, you gotta release the thing. They don't get to release it, so it sinks. And this attack goes with it. Ooh, attack must be something. Must be some kind of weapon. Who knows? Oh no. All right, and then 14 minutes in, we meet the absolutely gorgeous Melina Havelock, played by Carolina Bouquet. Bouquet, maybe? I'm gonna say Bouquet because I like that. Just holy crap, she's pretty. And she's flying into this ship to meet her parents, and her parents are there, and it's all going to be lovely, but the helicopter turns around and comes in and just lays waste to everyone except Melina. she runs over to her dead parents, and she does this thing, very 80s. This whole movie is so 80s, it's ridiculous. She does this thing where she's holding her dad, and she's slowly, like George Clooney, just slowly looks up at the camera. Tears in the eyes, blood, everything, and it was just this whole movie was so 80s. It was. I mean, it had the 80s music, the 80s structure. This was a nuts movie. Not one of my favorites. So we're getting there. She's just yeah. But we have to move on to. We see Moneypenny going through. She's going to go open this file cabinet. It's like, I don't know why I liked it so much. It was so cool. She opens the file cabinet and it just pops up, and it's a mirror, and she's got all her makeup, and she's doing her makeup, and in the mirror you see the hat fly into the room and land on the hat rack perfectly. Just, it's a Bond thing, and Bond comes in, oh hey Moneypenny, and they're talking and flirting and doing their thing. Still not as much chemistry as she had with Sean Connery. It is what it is. But we get there, and then we learn something, that M is on leave. It's like, well, you need to go in and see them. Oh, I'll go see M. M's not here. M's on leave. And here we go. The reason why he's on leave is a kind of a sad thing. Bernard Lee, wonderful actor. He played M many times. He was M. Much like she's Moneypenny. You know, that is Moneypenny. Like, you have people who are born to play roles, and Bernard Lee was born to play the role of M. I mean, I can arguably say that that Dame Judi Dench is a better M, but Bernard Lee is an awesome M. But he's on leave. The thing was, he was actually supposed to shoot this scene, but before the shooting started, he was diagnosed with stomach cancer. Bernard Lee was actually diagnosed with stomach cancer, and they were going to let him shoot this one scene. He was like, let me do one scene, kind of like a goodbye to M, you know, because I don't know if I'm going to make it. And they were going to let him shoot the one scene where he tells Bond what to do, gives him his assignment. We're cool, which is usually what M has, is one scene. And he couldn't even get through the scene. He was in so much pain. And then 2 weeks later, he unfortunately passed away. Bernard Lee passed away of stomach cancer. So they decided, instead of recasting M, we're going to show respect to Bernard Lee and not shoot M at all. Instead, we're going to give Q a extended role, and we're going to have him get his mission from the others. But he did, and it's super awesome. But, you know, rest in peace to Bernard Lee. He was an awesome M. We gotta go on. I don't want to be depressing. 19 minutes in, we see the Lotus Spirit. This is the SX Turbo from 1981. So this was even more fast and awesome than the other one. But it does play a part here. He used it to drive to kind of like the bad guy's lair, you know, but we don't exactly know who the bad guy is yet. He's there, and then he ends up getting in a fight, of course, because that's what Bond does. Lots of half-naked women running around, blah, blah, blah. And then we get Bond with his... He uses an umbrella as a weapon. It's one of those big umbrellas that sits on a table. Well, you know, and he's like fighting people with it. And there's a point where he jumps off the cliff and opens it and uses it as like a parachute to float down, like Mary Poppins. But there's one man that did that better. This guy. Yeah, that guy. That guy. Yondu did it. He's Mary Poppins, y'all. Yondu. That's what I'm talking about. I mean, I don't know that you know, like Wednesday, I'm not going to be doing one of the videos because I'll be getting my tattoo worked on. I'm going to be adding some characters to it. And then the next 2 weeks after that, I've got to finish off this tattoo. And then 2 weeks after that, I got to get my Yondu tattoo. So it's going to be crazy. But I'm a big fan of Yondu. I'm a big fan of Guardians of the Galaxy. So he did it better. And also, the Mythbusters proved that you cannot do this with an umbrella. No matter how big the umbrella is, the wind force would turn it inside out and you would just fall like a rock. So, Mythbusters, shout out. But this is James Bond. You're supposed to suspend disbelief. But But he does a little Mary Poppins jump, and it's he meets up with Melina, find out that she's trying to kill some people, and this is so 80s. God, her car is 80s. Everything in this is 80s. The music in the background is 80s. Ugh. But there's a moment, and this is another little kind of like nudge nudge from the director and the producers here. There's a moment where Bond's going to his Lotus with Melina. He stops because he sees people at the Lotus, and they touch the Lotus and it explodes. Just boom. And he's like, oh, I hope you have a car. And the Lotus exploding was the director and the producer's way of saying Bond is not going to be using gadgets as much. We're going to stop having him rely on gadgets. And this was another time where I agree. I love the gadgets. Don't get me wrong. Love the gadgets. It's one of my favorite parts of Bond. But I hate it when they use it as a crutch. Like I love like he uses a gadget to get in somewhere, or uses the gadget to do something cool, to finish a mission or something like that. But I hate it when he has a gadget that is clearly going to save his life, because it takes away the air of danger completely. There is no suspense when you know that like Bond is trapped, but he has that watch that has a saw in it, so he's just going to saw through the rope and he's out. It takes away all danger, and I hate that. Bond needs to be put into danger, but with a gadget, you know he's going to use some kind of special gadget to get out of it. Cool. Now that's just my opinion, and I know that I'm in the minority on that, because everyone loves the gadgets. Everyone's like, "Oh, he'll get out with an awesome gadget. Check this out. It's going to be so cool." To me, I would rather have that suspense. I would rather have that moment where I'm like, oh man, Bond's not going to get out of this. Yeah, of course he is. He's Bond. He ain't going to die in a movie, especially not 20 minutes in. But, you know, I just don't like the whole gadget, him having 19 gadgets in a movie. I think he should have 1-2 gadgets per movie. But having like 19 gadgets per movie to where every time he gets in a pickle, he gets right out of it. I don't like that. It just doesn't do it for me. But I digress. It's Bond, and Bond is awesome. So they blow it up. They run to Melina's car, which is a Citroen. Oh, and this car turns out to be an awesome, awesome Bond car. No gadgets or anything, but this is also, besides the Lotus, Roger Moore's favorite car. He loved driving the Lotus, but he said he loved driving this car more than any other car. This is a 2CD, by the way. And it's great because when they're being chased by the bad guys, there's a point where he's like, "Take the low road," and she's like, "Oh, what?" And she hits it, and it flips, turns on its ceiling, or actually turns on its side, and they get out, and everyone in the street is helping them push the car over. They push it over, and it keeps going, and they keep driving. They're being chased by all these guys. They're doing turns, doing all this, and then they flip it again. They actually roll it down a hill. It lands on its wheels. They keep driving. And I thought this was great, because this could actually work. This is kind of realistic. But there is a point when they're being chased by these bad guys. The bad guys jump off the hill and they land in a tree, and they're stuck in the tree, and they're straight up looking like Ron and Harry in the Whomping Willow, like that. And it's great. Because I'm a big Harry Potter fan. I have a Deathly Hallow amount. So, yeah. I have a lot of tattoos. I have a ton of tattoos. No 007 tattoos, though. Not one. Kind of crazy. But we're done. They escape. They're out of there. And skipping forward, Bond gets another Lotus. Except this one's in red. It's actually the same car. It's a Lotus Spirit SX Turbo from 1981, but it's in red this time. It has got the skis on it. So I mean, it'd be cool if you like turned it over and like skiing on the top. They are 36 minutes in. 36 minutes in, we meet Chrysados, who we don't know yet, but is actually our bad guy, and he looks like a bad guy. He's got a goatee and everything. So of course he's a bad guy. He's got a goatee like me. He doesn't have the scruff like me. He's got a goatee like me. He's very clean shaven. And Chrysados is kind of like the father figure to one of our Bond girls, to BB. BB played by Lynn Holly Johnson. Very strange. So the BB's clearly got a little thing for Bond. She's like, oh, I want to go and have him take me to a triathlon. Oh, okay. And Bond's like, I don't know. And then like, okay, we'll take him. And so Bond's like, all right, I got to go down here. I'm gonna go get me, go down to the town, see what's going on, see if I can get me some information. He sees Melina. He's like, what the heck is Melina doing here? He's running down and he sees some hoods try to kill Melina, and it turns out they actually lured her down there with Bond to kill her. But they don't, because Bond saves the day. Bond's like, you need to go. You need to get out of here. And he sends her away. He's like, I will find who killed your parents. And that is one of the things, like, this is one of my gripes with the movie, is that there is basically no plot to this movie. Okay, the weapon disappears at the beginning of the movie, but we never know that anyone's chasing it. We never even know what the weapon is. The whole plot of the movie is Bond looking for these people that killed Melina's parents because they are linked to something else. But you don't find out what they're linked to until roughly an hour and 30 to an hour and 40 in. So this movie goes an hour 30, hour 40 minutes without a plot. It has a subplot of this girl's looking for the people who killed her parents and James Bond's looking for them too. That's a subplot. So I was very disappointed in that. It was still entertaining, and it actually still ranked higher than some of the lower ones, the lower tier things, but it was just going an hour and 30 minutes without a true plot. You don't even find out who the bad guy is until an hour 30 in, because for the most part, this Chrysados guy is kind of a cool dude. So, but anyway, so we find out, he's BB's like father figure. They try to kill Melina, and there's a point where Bond goes to his apartment and he sees BB. BB's there, and BB's like trying to seduce him. But the thing is it's not actually outright stated in the movie. But BB is 16 in the script. Roger Moore actually in his autobiography said BB was supposed to be 16, and Bond's turning around. He's like, "You need to get dressed. You need to get out of here. This is weird." So Bond has scruples. Bond will not sleep with just anything. You've got to be of age. So 16 years old, and he says no to that. Good on you, Bond. I like that. So next up, we meet a henchman. Two of them actually, but the important one is Klaus. Klaus, played by Charles Dance. Now he looks very familiar, if he does, because he should, because he was Clemens in Alien 3. That's two Bond movies linked to the Alien movies. Now they're not just linked to Steven Spielberg, they're linked to Aliens. But we get the longest ski chase in history. It is so long, and at first it's like kind of cool because they're shooting at him and stuff, but it's like, holy crap, this thing goes on for like 9 minutes, and it's skiing down a hill, followed by henchmen, and he's like taking the henchmen out like one by one, stuff like that. He's taking henchmen out here and there, but it's like it's just so long and drawn out, and I mean, then he gets on a bobsled thing. He's like, there's a bobsled track, and he's on it with skis. It's just so long, but there was a moment on that bobsled thing where there's a turn on the bobsled that's really sharp. It just kind of whips you, and a stuntman actually died on that. Paolo Rioni, he actually passed away because that thing whipped him so hard and kind of shoved him to the ground. And after this movie was shot, you have, I think it was like they said it was a few weeks later that there's a team there's a bobsled team training on the same track, and one of the bobsledders actually died on the same track in the same exact turn, and this happened weeks apart, so they actually had to redesign the bobsled track, and they did. They redesigned the bobsled track to take that whipping turn out, so people would stop dying on it, getting shit whipped everywhere. I'll skip forward to this one. There's also a hockey fight these 3 guys wearing Canadians jerseys come up there and they are going to take out Bond, and it kind of irked me because the hockey guys are wearing ice skates. They're ice skating, and Bond's in shoes, and somehow he beats these guys like without an issue. And it had a really really cheesy moment where he's taking them out one by one, and every time he takes one out, he kind of throws them into the goal, and the goal sound goes off. It's like, you know, and then the goal sound is like the siren goes off, and then up on the scoreboard it says 1, and then he throws the second guy in there, and it goes off again, and it says 2, and he throws the third guy, and it says 3. And it's, I don't know, it was too cheesy for me. I hated it. But you had my remote. The hockey fight, but yeah, and I don't. I think like 3 hockey goons could probably take out Bond, especially if they're wearing Canadians jerseys. They don't even have numbers on them; they're just the Canadians colors. So Canadians, you know. Hour and 1, you get to meet Countess Liesel. Countess Liesel. Now she's important. Not her character. Her character is not important at all. Her character is just there for fodder. She's actually has 2 scenes, and she's in the movie for a grand total of about 15 minutes. But she herself is played by Cassandra Harris, and Cassandra Harris is married to, was at the time, 1981, married to Pierce Brosnan. And Pierce Brosnan would go on to play Bond in Goldeneye. But if it wasn't for her playing this role, Albert Broccoli might not have ever have met Pierce Brosnan, because she introduced Albert Broccoli to Pierce, like, this is my husband, Pierce Brosnan. And he liked his look, so he started watching Remington Steele and said, this guy should be our next Bond. He was supposed to play Bond in 1989. But because of Remington Steele, he couldn't get into it. I think he was supposed to play him in The Living Daylight, License to Kill. He was supposed to play him in License to Kill. Timothy Dalton ended up playing him in that, but so he actually didn't play Bond until years later. 1989 was the last Bond until the 90s. In 93, 95, was it? I think it was 95. 95, he played Bond for the first time in GoldenEye, and created one of the greatest video games of all time, 1960, or the Nintendo 64 GoldenEye. So everyone knows that if you had a Nintendo 64, you had GoldenEye. So it was very cool. But like 15 minutes later, the Countess is run down on the beach, just murderized on the beach. But there's a funny moment afterwards. It's not really funny that someone died, but funny that when he's running over to her dead body to make sure she's dead, he kind of kicks sand in her face, and like she flinches, but she's supposed to be dead. I saw that, and I had to rewind it to make sure I saw what I saw. But she's just, oh, and it's not the first time it happens either. It happens later too. This movie's full of little gaffes. This is not a very well-made Bond movie. I don't think many of them are very well made, but you know, you're not gonna win no Oscars, except for score and song. But yeah, she's like running, she's dead, and Bond's over there running, and he just kind of kicks sand. She just, it's like funny. So through all this though, we do find out, he finds the henchman and finds out that Chrysados is a baddie. He's a bad guy. He doesn't know what he's doing yet. He just knows that he's trying to kill Melina and Bond. What's going on? Oh no, he's a baddie. It's bad. We have the warehouse shootout. There's a warehouse shootout. Just people popping up behind boxes. Pew pew, pew pew, pew pew. You know, it's a warehouse shootout. It's a typical '80s shootout too. Like, if you've seen any 80s action movie, you've seen this shootout. So there's not even a point in me going through it. There's a moment when he's actually chasing one of the henchmen, and he, like, wrecks his car. And he's like teetering on the edge of a cliff. And Bond comes over there and just like looks at him, doesn't even say anything, doesn't try to get any information, just kicks the car, boom, car goes over. And Roger Moore hated shooting the scene because he said Bond wouldn't do this. Bond wouldn't just kill someone in cold blood. He would get information first or something. So Roger Moore was very much against this. Doesn't matter. It still happened. And then we're going to find the attack because we find out that that's what everyone's after. They swim down to the bottom, they see this boat, the boat that sunk in the first part of the movie, and it's making coffee. So we're in there, and we find he finds it. He's going to take it, but he runs into this thing called a gym suit. And it looks like this, the gym suit, but it's really lumpy and everything. He can't really move well in it, and all it is a Big Daddy from Bioshock, right? Bioshock. He runs into a Big Daddy. It's kind of cool. And the boat explodes, but then this is another little gaff. You know, whenever in an action movie they show the explosion, boom, boom, boom. They show it 3 times from 3 different angles. And on this angle, they have the first angle where they're swimming out. There's a little hole they have to escape out of, and it blows up. But they're in the hole, the thing explodes, and you see the 2 stuntmen or dummies or whatever go boom, and this one goes this way. This one goes straight up and hits its head on the top of the thing. Just boom, crack. Second one, they blow up and it goes outward, and they're like, whoa, like that. Third one, which is where we start our movie back, it blows up and it just blows up behind them with no reaction. So there were 3 different explosions here, and they went with the third one. It was like, boom, oh, they're dead. Boom, oh, well, they might be dead there too. Do it one more time, boom. There was only 1 explosion on the boat, but there was 3 different explosions. So that kind of bugged me. Do some editing, y'all. So, but they're okay in the next frame. But they do get caught. Our bad guy gets the weapon, and they're going to kill Bond by a pretty cool method. They tie him together, and they're going to drag him down the bottom of the ocean. So they'll hit the coral, cut themselves open, they'll start bleeding. Sharks will eat them. But Bond outsmarts him. He cuts the ropes with the coral, and he like wraps the rope around a rock, and they can't go anywhere. Like, oh, come on. They kind of screw it up. They go around. They try to kill Bond. Doesn't happen. Bond escapes. But then we hit the third act of the movie, and this is where the movie starts dragging and just gets so boring. We have a scene where Bond is trying to climb a rock face while his little buddies are down there ready to go. They're like, yeah, let's go get these bad guys. Let's go. Come on, man. Yeah, let's go, man. Yeah. Anyone got a sandwich? I'm kind of hungry. And Bond's climbing this rock face, and a villain finds him and like kicks him off the rock, and he kind of falls and dangles there, and he's like hitting the little posts, and he keeps knocking him out, and Bond falls further and further. He finally gets up to the top and kills the guy, but it takes him a shorter amount of time to climb the rope like that than it does for him to climb but he gets there, and this is where pretty much we get a shootout, and the bad guy is like, oh, well, I'm going to sell this thing to the Russians, you know, it's going to be, they're going to have it, and they're going to be able to control any missile and any submarine. It's like, okay, cool. But he ends up getting caught, and Melina's about to shoot him with a crossbow, and Bond's like, no, don't kill him, revenge isn't where it's at. And even though he went after Blofeld several times to kill him, but whatever. A different guy kills him anyway, hits him with a knife in the back. It's like, all right, cool. He's dead. I didn't like this villain, so he's not interesting to me at all. And then Bond has the weapon. He meets up with the Russian, and Russian's like, you give me a weapon, I give you vodka. And he's like, oh, it's like, nah. Chucks it off the thing. It shatters on the ground, and then and you expect the Russian to be like, oh, you're dead. No, you are dead, Mr. Bond. I will take you out. And he's like, okay. But instead, Bond just says, you don't have it, I don't have it. We're even. And the Russian's like, I like you, Mr. Bond. He's got chutzpah. But kind of walks away. He doesn't actually say that, but that's basically it. He just walks away. He doesn't say anything. He just smiles at him. And then he walks away. And Bond and Melina get a little kiss action. This is Bond's second time because he slept with the Countess too. This movie had some nudity in it too. There was some major points of nudity here. It's kind of weird. But at the very end, we get a scene that actually Roger Moore hated. It was a scene where this girl is playing Margaret Thatcher. And she's like, "Oh, we just wanted to thank you, Bond." And Bond puts the phone next to a parrot, and the parrot's like, "Oh, kiss me, kiss me." And it's like, and Mark goes, "Oh, Mr. Bond," and it's like, it was, and even Roger Moore hated it. He was like, "I thought we were going for a serious tone here," and they're like, "No, yeah, sorry, we had to have that." But that was the end. Credits roll. Like, "For your eyes only." Okay, I gave it a decent grade because it was entertaining, but for a movie, this was garbage. There's no plot until the very end, and it's just like, and I know a lot of people are like, yeah, well, that's a Bond movie. You're not supposed to know the plot until the very end. This is not like that. This is literally no plot. It's people running around, but it had some cool stuff. So I gave it a 7 out of 10. Let me just go over here. 7 out of 10. Wasn't horrible. Wasn't top tier either. So 7 out of 10. We have our body count of 18, love count of 2. It's all right. It wasn't bad. I mean, I've already said my gripes about I like a serious Bond, but this was also not super serious. It wasn't super serial. I'm super serial, but it was me. So we have, but this is actually the end of the first Bond book. Like, what are we talking about? Bond book? I'm talking about my Blu-ray box set. I have all of them in a book here, like that. This was the end of my first Bond book. I have to grab this. This is the actual box set. Slide the book out, and this is the next Bond book. This is 1983 to 2012, and the next one is Octopussy. It does not have Never Say Never Again in here because that is not considered a Bond film. But I will be watching it after Octopussy. I may watch Octopussy now and do a video on that now just to get it out of the way so I can go into the next section. But we're almost out of the Moore era, which is cool. We're going to be in the Timothy Dalton era soon. I like it. We're moving along. So next up, go ahead and get that over with. Next up, Octopussy, 1983, the year I was born. John Glenn in his second outing as director. Roger Moore, sixth outing as Bond. He played Bond more than anybody. We have the Bond girls, Octopussy, of course, who's actually played by Maud Adams, who is in Man with the Golden Gun. We have Magna, Bianca. The villain is a prince. We actually have Jenna Orloff there, which was an okay one. The car is the Bond car. He drives a Bentley in it, but the main Bond car he actually drives what's pretty much a rickshaw. And I think he drives a Mercedes in this, an Alfa Romeo. He has a lot of cars. And we have a Rita Coolidge song, which is going to be pretty freaking cool. I'm ready for it. It'll be my 13th show, which is my lucky number. So hopefully you'll join me for that. All right, man. I'm going to go edit this. Once again, as always, I got to thank you for watching. Thank you for watching this, and thank you for having the patience to wait through the weekend with me. But thanks for watching.